Okay, I think we can start the second cross-examination. This will be conducted by Stephen Hammond and will last for 1 hour, after which we'll have, say, 45 minutes of comment from the audience and from our tribunal, from the witness, from her counsel, and from the two cross-examiners, and anyone else here who wants to make observations about the cross-examination, what they would have done, what they consider to be effective, what they consider not done, whatever they want to say about it that might help us all gain some sense of what can be done in cross-examination. So I'll now turn it over to the chair, Ms. Halbrom.
Madam Chairman, I have concluded. Thank you very much.
And now Ms. Montero, you know that you're now going to be asked some questions by Mr. Hammond. Mr. Hammond, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Montero, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I take it you still have before you the witness statement that was subject to some earlier testimony?
Yes,
And you also have a copy of the documentation, the exhibits that have been marked in
Yes.
these proceedings? Before we turn to the substance of your witness statement, Ms. Montero, let me see if we can just make sure we understand who it is that is testifying today. You are the CEO of Montero Company, is that correct?
yes,
And you took control of Montero Company shortly before you graduated from Harvard Law School, correct?
upon the death of my father.
That was in 1995?
Correct.
And Montero is your company, correct?
It is.
And Montero Company is the claimant in these proceedings.
Yes,
Now, apart from your role as CEO of Montero Company, the claimant, it's also the case, is it not, that you're a lawyer in good standing from the state of Juristanian?
I am a lawyer, a Juristanian lawyer. I do not practice the law, but I am a lawyer in standing, yes.
But you are in good standing and have been since 1995, is correct?
That's correct.
And you have Harvard has published at least one of your articles on Juristanian law, isn't that correct?
On the rule of law, yes, in Juristania, yes.
And that's an article that you published some 20 years ago, correct?
A very long time ago, yes.
And you continue, though, to advise. Indeed, you have advised your co-venturer about certain aspects of Juristanian law.
I don't think that I can be characterized as having given legal advice to my co-venturer. He asks for my views because I'm qualified, but we have legal advisors who provide a detailed view.
Thank you. And when you say qualified, ma'am, you mean qualified as a lawyer?
I am
in
qualified as a
Juristanian,
lawyer, yes.
Correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. If you let me finish my questions, I'll try not to interrupt your answers if that's
I
okay.
apologize.
No, not at all. So if we turn then to the substance of your witness statement, is it, well, actually, let me go back now that you've mentioned this thing about your legal standing. Is it the case, Ms. Montero, that, quote, Montero, the claimant and counterclaimant respondent, is represented by Sandra Montero in these proceedings?
Not legally represented. I'm the representative of the company.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, this is my legal counsel.
I understand he's the legal counsel to you, the witness. I'm just trying to clarify, you are not the legal counsel to the company. Is that your testimony?
I am not.
Okay. You understand that there would be an inconsistency, isn't that right, between being an advocate and being a fact witness in these proceedings?
I wouldn't know, but I'm not legally representing Montero Company in these proceedings.
That wouldn't seem inconsistent to you?
This is not the case, so
It's not the case in these proceedings.
it is not.
So, in fact, you are coming before the tribunal to testify as a fact witness, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you will be providing, as we say in my country, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to this tribunal.
That is a given, yes.
Okay. In that case, then, let's start with the substance of your witness statement, if we may. you tell us that you were born in Juristania and that you were the daughter of a widowed father, correct?
Sorry, that I was the daughter of? Yes,
A father whose
Of my father,
wife
yes.
died and he didn't remarry.
that's
Sorry.
correct.
Thank you. And you told us that your father wanted you to have a good education, correct?
Yes,
And he was a successful businessman, so he could afford to send you abroad, correct?
I expect so, yes.
Well, he did in fact send you to Canada to get your first university degree, is that not correct?
That is correct.
And upon the completion of that first university degree, you went on to do an LLM at Harvard, correct?
Correct.
And it was the case, was it not, that your father had had for many years a business associate who lived outside of Boston in Brookline, correct?
Yes,
That was Mr. Bottoni. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
yes,
Now, Mr. Bottoni allowed you to stay in his large house in Brookline, isn't that correct?
yes,
And he gave you the use of one of his cars to commute to Harvard, correct?
yes.
In fact, Mr. Bottoni trusted you, didn't he?
I expect he did. Yes, he knew my father, and he and my father respected each other. Yes.
But he didn't lend the car to your father. He trusted you, didn't he?
He actually did lend the car to my dad when my father came to Brookline. Yes.
But he lent his car to you to go to classes at Harvard.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a
So
very careful driver.
You're a very careful driver. Thank you. And from the time that you finished Harvard until at least the elections in Juristania that we're going to talk about later in, I think, 2012, it's the case, is it not, that he continued to trust you?
I wouldn't know that. I would expect so, but I don't know that for sure. I can't speak for him. I hope to have earned this trust.
Well, do you not consider that his trust in you was justified throughout that 20-plus years?
Assuming that he did trust me, yes, I would hope to have lived up to it, yes.
Well, let's talk about, if we can, sort of the particulars of that trust in the years after you left Harvard, if we can. Now, in your witness statement, you have described several specific roles that were played out in the connection with the joint venture that's described in your witness statement. Do you remember that?
Several roles played by whom?
By you, I'm sorry, ma'am. Thank you for the clarification. By you.
Yes.
Okay. The joint venture was called Fremont, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And you say, for example, in paragraph 10 of your witness statement, that you participated in negotiation of the concession agreement between the government and Fremont, correct?
Yes.
And those were negotiations that took place in Juristania, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we know, therefore, that Mr. Bottoni did not directly participate in the negotiations. Isn't that right?
That's true.
Because you tell us in paragraph 6, he never went to Juristania, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Now, in addition, you tell us in paragraph 13 that it was your responsibility to negotiate the arrangements once the concession was awarded between Fremont and the local power company, correct?
Yes.
And also in paragraph 13, you tell us that your role and that of the Montero Company, that's your company, was to focus on strategic planning and government relations, correct?
Yes.
In paragraph 12, you state, quote, I did, however, have duties and responsibilities as a director at Fremont's headquarters in Juris City, close
Yes.
quotes. So those are all specific tasks, duties, accomplishments that you've described for us in your witness statement, correct?
Yes.
Now, in addition to these specific descriptions of your roles and your duties, you also indicate on various occasions, do you not, that your business and government connections were extremely important to Fremont's success. Am I correct in that?
Yes. This was a legacy of my father's hard work in cultivating those contacts and connections with the government. Yes, and I inherited that and cultivated it, yes.
Well, and in fact, you told us in paragraph 8, I'll just quote the witness statement if I may, I was fortunate in my business dealings in Juristania to have the same contacts my father had before I took over the company. These people, both inside and outside the government, were enormously helpful to me, especially regarding government contracts and so forth. Have I read that correctly, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay. And do you not say in paragraph 9 that in 2005 this opportunity came up with respect to the joint venture that is, and the concession that is the subject of these proceedings? Do you recall you discussing that in paragraph 9 of your witness statement?
it's written here, yes.
And indeed, down in that paragraph, you say, quote, there were several other bidders, but we, that's you, are referring to you and Mr. Bottoni, we were successful in significant part because of my good connections with the Derecho Party and others in responsible positions in the Juristanian government. Have I read that correctly?
Yes,
And you also tell us, in connection with the local power company that we mentioned a little bit earlier, in paragraph 13 of your witness statement, quote, thanks to my good relationship with the Derecho Party, I was able to negotiate a good rate for us, close
Yes.
quotes. Now, in each of those last three references to your witness statement, you were saying that you were using the first person, or you not? You were saying my good connections. You were saying I was able to negotiate, and so forth. This was you personally, was it not, Ms. Montero?
it was.
And indeed, for example, in paragraph 20 of your witness statement, you indicate, quote, I was able, through hard work and effective persuasion, to obtain an order from the Council on Foreign Trade, giving the Council's consent to the sale of metallurgical coal from the Teishoku mine, close quotes. Have I read that one correctly?
Yes, for
And
the
again,
joint
you're
venture.
telling, I'm sorry?
For the joint venture.
Yes, but you say I was able. You weren't saying the joint venture was able, correct?
It's myself for the
Yes.
benefit of the joint venture, but
Right.
I am the one doing what I described there, yes.
So when you say I was able through hard work and effective persuasion, you're talking about your hard work and your effective persuasion, correct?
I am, albeit if the joint venture was not a tremendous asset, then obviously I would not have much to work with.
Well, for example, if we contrast your efforts with those of Mr. Bottoni, he was not ever in Juristania, correct?
Yes, that's a fact. He stays in Boston.
So when it goes to questions of meeting with government officials and seeking to persuade government officials, we know that that was not Mr. Bottoni.
It was not him personally, but obviously his name is associated with my venture.
Correct. It was you who went in on his behalf, or more precisely on behalf of the joint venture.
That's what I was saying,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Now, we've gone through this list, but isn't in fact the case, ma'am, that you also describe your role in connection with this joint venture to your fellow Harvard alumni in a reunion note that was published last year for your 20th reunion scheduled to take place next month?
Yes?
And that's Exhibit A to these proceedings. I've called it A. Madam Chairman, I don't know that it's been previously indicated as such, but it's the first one, so it's a fair number, I hope.
Thank you, we've noted that.
And in that extract, that excerpt, Ms. Montero, you indicate, quote, my proudest achievement in my career thus far has been the organization and management of the largest infrastructure project my country has ever seen, the Teishoku project. You see that?
Yes.
And you go on to say in the next sentence, quote, under my supervision and control, a competitive bid was won, financing was obtained, a coal mine and transmission lines were built, and profitable sales of coal and power were arranged. Have I read that correct?
Yes.
So, in fact, while you have said in your witness statement to the tribunal that you were a participant in the negotiations, the truth is, Ms. Montero, that you supervised and controlled a competitive bid and its winning. Isn't that right?
I did not say that I was a participant. I did say I did play a central role. I think that came out of the witness statement, and it is true. And it is true that I exercised supervision and control. I was not the only one to exercise supervision, certainly, but I had main control of the negotiations, yes.
But in any event, in this sentence that I've just quoted to you, ma'am, you say under my supervision and control,
Yes.
the competitive bid was won. That's a true statement, isn't it?
It is a true statement. It doesn't mean I was the only one exercising it.
Well, now, incidentally, when you published this note or allowed this note to be published on behalf or for your fellow alumni, you were not, as you describe in the first paragraph of your witness statement, submitting a statement, quote, in support of a claim of my company, Montero Company, close quotes.
Of course not.
Yes.
This was not for the purpose of legal proceedings.
No, the purpose was to honestly tell your fellow alums what was your proudest accomplishment. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and the purpose of my witness statement is to honestly tell this tribunal what the story is.
Well, but if I can direct your attention to the first paragraph, that's not what you say, is it? You say that you're pleased to make this statement in support of the claim of my company, the Montero Company, for compensation for the losses. Did I read that correctly, ma'am?
Yes, and if you read the last paragraph of the statement, you'll see that it's the whole truth.
Well, where you say that the facts that you set forth are entirely true.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, you say in this note to your Harvard fellow Harvard alumni, that there were other aspects of supervision and control. Is that correct?
What do you mean other aspects?
Well, you say, for example, when you say that this was your proudest accomplishment of what was done under your supervision and control, you refer to profitable sales of coal were arranged. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. In paragraph 13 of your witness statement, you state, quote, my role and that of the Montero Company was to focus on strategic planning and government relations, close quotes. We mentioned that before, remember?
Yes.
Okay. Strategic planning involves things like adopting business strategies that keep the joint venture from going bankrupt, don't they?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it the case that the position of CEO of the joint venture, Fremont, Ms. Montero, rotated between Montero Company and Framingham Industries every 2 years?
Yes.
And that's what you tell us in paragraph 12, isn't it? That the CEO of Fremont that the CEO of Fremont between 2007 and 2009, for example, was a Montero representative. Have I got that right?
Taking over from a Framingham one, yes.
Now, the latest date, however, that you mentioned in paragraph 12 is 2009.
Yes.
But we can extrapolate. We know that from 2009 to 2011, it was a Framingham representative, and from 2011-2013, it was back to being a Montero representative, correct?
That's no extrapolation, it's a fact, yes.
It's a fact.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, this case is all about a sale of coal by the joint venture to third parties, isn't it?
That's one aspect of it, yes.
And it's true, is it not, that the sale of coal to third parties continued through much of the 2011 to 2013 period?
That's not, I found that out now, yes.
Well, you found it out now, but it's a fact, correct?
I found out now that it's a fact. It was a fact, yes.
So sales of metallurgical coal were made from Teishoku from early 2010 until the fall of 2013, correct?
That's what I now know, yes.
Okay. Now, if I could direct you, Ms. Montero, to paragraph 15 of your witness statement, you say that they, and you're referring, I take it, to Framingham Industries, they were very clever in hiding from me and my associates that certain of the coal was not being burned in the power plant and was instead being shipped out of the country for use in metallurgical coal, as metallurgical coal by Asian steel producers. Have I read that right?
Yes,
Okay. Now, Ms. Montero, the joint venture, not Framingham Industries, was mining the coal. Isn't that correct?
that is correct.
And it was the joint venture that sold the coal. Isn't that correct?
My understanding of the situation that I acquired ex post facto was that Framingham had
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear
I'm
you.
sorry. My understanding of the situation, which I acquired ex post facto, was that Framingham had representatives on site at all times, making sure that the joint venture was doing what it was doing.
But if we look at the period between 2011 and the fall of 2012, when we know these sales were taking place, it's true, is it not, that the CEO of the joint venture, the senior joint venture person in management, was a Montero Company appointee, correct?
Starting in 2011, but as I understand it, those sales started beforehand.
Well, but my point is simply, withdrawn. Let me ask you, who was the name of that individual? Who was the...
In 2011,
Yes,
Daisy Chapman.
David Chapman.
Daisy.
I'm sorry, Daisy Chapman. Now, when you say they were very clever in hiding from me that certain coal was not being burned in the power plant and was instead being shipped out of the country, would you agree with me that Daisy Chapman was equally clever?
I don't know that.
You don't know that because we don't have a witness statement from Daisy Chapman. Isn't that correct?
I don't know that at all.
You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. And did you have any discussions within the company about who or who should not testify before this tribunal?
With my lawyers, yes.
Well, aside from your lawyers, I don't want to probe into that area.
No, I mean, my lawyers met with us, myself and the other representatives, and we discussed precisely that, yes.
So, in fact, it's your testimony, as I understand it, that you have no information relating to whether and what Daisy Chapman knew about the sale of coal to third parties during this period of time when she was the CEO of the joint venture, correct?
That is the truth.
Now, you say in paragraph 16 of your witness statement that in October 2012, when I discovered what had happened and realized the importance of these sales to the voters, I became extremely concerned and made a trip to Boston to meet with Horace to discuss what to do. Have I read that right?
Yes,
Now, was it early or late in October that you made your trip?
it was mid-October.
It was mid-October. When were the elections in Juristania?
In November
Do you remember the day?
2012.
I'm sorry?
In November 2012.
Okay. Isn't it a fact, Ms. Montero, that the new government took control in Juristania on the 6th of November, 2012?
Yes,
Now, you say in paragraph 13 of your witness statement, quote, In the campaign, the opposition party made accusations concerning what it claimed were corruption and even theft in the management of the Taishoku project, and these accusations played an important role in persuading voters to reject the Derecho Party candidates and cause a new government to be formed immediately following the election. I'm sorry, that's not your witness statement. I apologize, Madam Chairman, I'll withdraw that. It's an
I
internal.
was looking for it and couldn't.
I apologize, wrong reference. In any event, I meant to direct you to paragraph 14 of your witness statement where you say, quote, nationwide elections took place in November 2012, and we now know it was November 6th, 2012,
Yes,
and the results were a shock to me and my friends in the Derecho Party. Have I read that correctly?
yes,
It was a shock because it was unexpected, correct?
yes,
You tell us in paragraph 14, we had expected that our party would remain in office for another 6 years. Correct?
yes,
It was also a shock because the important and influential people who were in government throughout the period up to 2012 and who had been so valuable in the success of your business activities for many years no longer had, to use your phrase, control of the government, close quotes.
that is
correct?
correct.
And the loss of control was a very bad thing for you and your company and for the joint venture from a business point of view. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
And isn't that why you told, that's why you told Horace Batoni at the Boston meeting, and I'm now quoting from paragraph 18 of your witness statement, quote, I told Horace that negotiating with the government would be fruitless because it was now controlled by the opposition party, which would not want to do any favors for supporters of the Derecho Party, close quotes. Correct?
that is true.
All right. Now, would you agree with me that when you told Horace what I have just quoted from paragraph 18 of your witness statement, that the meeting which you were describing could not have taken place in October when you said you went to Boston, since the government which you yourself describe as, quote, now controlled by the opposition party, close quotes, did not take control until November 6th?
That's true, but I mean, it did not happen overnight. There was quite a lot of rumbling in public opinion. There was quite a lot in the press about everything that they felt was improper. And so we could see that the Derecho Party was very likely to lose ground, albeit I certainly personally retained hope that they would somehow remain in power, which they did not.
But Ms. Montero, you have testified to this tribunal that you went to Boston in the middle of October,
Yes,
but you have related to us a conversation with Mr. Batoni when you went to meet with him that could not have taken place until after the 6th of November. Isn't that correct?
my trip in October was not very much to talk about the political situation in Juristania, so much as to talk about the sales that had been going on behind my back. That was the purpose of the meeting. And then we talked about the situation generally, and I explained to him that the Derecho Party was in trouble.
Well, we'll come back to it, but let's make clear one thing here. There was only one trip to Boston during this period, correct?
As I recall, yes.
You say in paragraph 18, maybe you should take it out of your witness statement, and I'll try and get the right document this time. You say, Ms. Montero, in paragraph 18, at the meeting in Boston, singular, correct?